All right, so buckle up, everybody, because today we're diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of a financial thriller.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about the Arizona Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act.
Okay.
Which basically means Arizona is thinking about holding Bitcoin, as in like the digital currency, Bitcoin as part of its state treasury reserves.
Wow.
I know, right? It sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, it's certainly a bold move and one that's, sparking a lot of debate.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why we're here today.
Yeah.
We're going to break down this bill, figure out what the potential upsides are, look at the very real risks,
Right.
and hopefully help you guys decide if this is like pure genius or utter madness or maybe like a crazy combo of both.
Well, I think the first thing we need to understand here is this bill is proposing a pretty significant shift from traditional reserve assets.
Yeah.
States typically hold reserves in things like government bonds,
Right.
which are generally considered safe, but they offer pretty low returns.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a completely different beast.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics here.
Sure.
What are we talking about? Like, how much Bitcoin could Arizona actually hold?
Well, the bill proposes allowing Arizona to invest up to 10% of its state funds into Bitcoin.
Whoa, 10%. Okay, that's a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
So what's the rationale behind that? Like, what are the potential benefits that have people so excited about this?
Well, one of the main arguments is that Bitcoin could act as a hedge against inflation.
Right.
We're all feeling the pinch of rising prices these days, and there's this concern that traditional currencies are losing their value.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin, with its limited supply, is designed to resist inflation in a way that, government-issued currencies just can't.
So it's like digital gold. I mean, people have been saying that for years, but I never really understood the comparison.
It's an analogy that helps to grasp the concept.
Yeah.
Imagine if Arizona had decided to hold a portion of its reserves in gold a few decades ago.
Okay.
Think about how much that gold would be worth today. Some people see Bitcoin as having a similar potential for long-term value growth.
Okay. Yeah, I see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So it's about diversification and, potentially protecting Arizona's assets from the risks associated with traditional investments.
Exactly. It's about not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
But of course, there's another side to this story.
No, because Bitcoin is notoriously volatile, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, its price swings up and down like crazy, like a roller coaster.
Totally.
Wouldn't that be incredibly risky for Arizona?
That's a major concern, and it's one that critics of the bill are very quick to point out.
Yeah.
Imagine the headlines.
Oh, I know.
If Arizona invested millions in Bitcoin,
Right.
and then suddenly its value dropped 20% overnight.
Oh, my God.
The public and political fallout would be insane.
I can only imagine. People would be furious
Oh, absolutely.
if their tax dollars were suddenly worth so much less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole issue of cybersecurity. What if hackers target Arizona's Bitcoin holdings, losing millions to cyber criminals? I mean, that would be a political nightmare.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a potential upside
Right.
that could help Arizona, like, weather economic storms,
Yeah,
but also a very real risk of just losing a huge chunk of taxpayer money.
for sure.
It feels like we need to kind of dig a little deeper into both sides of this to really understand what's at stake here.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with the potential benefits here.
Okay.
One key point that often gets overlooked is that Bitcoin's volatility,
Yeah.
while a risk, it can also present opportunities.
Right.
For example, in a scenario where traditional markets are performing poorly,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's independence from those systems could allow it to hold its value or even increase in value.
So in a way, it's a bit of a counterbalance.
Exactly.
If everything else is going down, Bitcoin might actually go up.
Right.
And that could help to offset some of those losses Arizona might experience in other areas.
Exactly. It's a way of hedging against systemic risk.
Okay.
And of course, there's the potential for long-term growth, right?
Right.
If Bitcoin continues to gain wider acceptance
Yeah.
and its value increases significantly,
Yeah.
Arizona could see a really substantial return on its investment.
Okay. I can see how that's tempting. But let's be realistic. Those potential rewards come with some serious risks.
For sure.
I mean, we've talked about price volatility and cybersecurity,
Right.
but what about the regulatory landscape?
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit of a wild card here?
Oh, absolutely. That's a valid concern. The regulatory environment for cryptocurrency is still evolving.
Right.
So what's legal and acceptable today might completely change tomorrow.
Right.
And this uncertainty creates a level of risk that, frankly, a lot of traditional investors just aren't comfortable with.
So how does Arizona navigate that? It seems like a lot of pressure to get it right, not only for their own sake, but for, the potential impact it could have on other states that might be considering similar moves.
It's a high-stakes game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the need for careful planning and a deep understanding of the technology and the regulatory environment.
Right, because if Arizona just dives in head first without a solid plan, this could backfire spectacularly.
Oh, for sure.
They could lose money, face public backlash, and potentially scare off other states from even considering Bitcoin.
Exactly. It underscores the need for a very cautious and measured approach.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a decision to be made lightly. There's a lot at stake, not just for Arizona, but potentially for the future of how governments manage their finances.
So on the one hand, we have this tantalizing possibility of huge rewards and a chance to, be a pioneer in the world of government-backed Bitcoin. But on the other hand, we have this looming threat of huge losses, security breaches, and regulatory nightmares.
Absolutely.
It feels like Arizona is standing at a crossroads here.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's a crossroads that a lot of people are watching very closely.
Right.
Because the outcome of this decision could have some really far-reaching consequences.
It's like Arizona is holding a magnifying glass up to the future of finance. What they decide to do could, magnify the possibilities, both good and bad.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
Okay.
What are the broader implications of this bill?
Yeah.
What does it tell us about the changing dynamics of money and power in the digital age?
Yeah, and it really does feel like we're talking about something much bigger than just, one state's investment strategy.
Right.
Feels like a pivotal moment where we're seeing traditional finance collide with this new world of digital currencies.
It's definitely a fascinating case study.
Yeah.
And, the outcome could have ripple effects far beyond Arizona's borders. Think about it. If Arizona actually takes this lead and it proves successful, other states might see that and be emboldened to follow suit.
Right, like a domino effect.
Exactly.
Right.
We could see governments around the world rethinking their entire approach to reserve assets.
So Arizona could actually become a trendsetter?
Potentially.
Paving the way for, wider acceptance of Bitcoin in the public sector.
It's possible.
But what if things go wrong? I mean, could Arizona's, experiment actually backfire and hinder Bitcoin's progress?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility too.
Right.
If Arizona experiences significant losses or faces some kind of major security breach, it could cast a shadow over Bitcoin and really deter other governments from even considering it as a viable option.
It's like Arizona's walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
The potential rewards are huge, but the risks are equally substantial.
For sure.
And the world is watching.
Absolutely.
Eager to see if they maintain their balance or, take a tumble.
Right. And this brings us to another important question.
Okay.
What does this all mean for the average person?
Right.
How might this impact the way we think about money and finance in our own lives?
That's a great question. I mean, if governments are starting to take Bitcoin seriously, does that mean that we should too? Does this legitimize Bitcoin in a way that we haven't seen before?
It's definitely a development worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
Government involvement in any market often has a pretty significant impact on public perception and adoption.
Right.
So if more governments start holding Bitcoin, it could lead to increased awareness and understanding of digital currencies among the general public.
And that could potentially lead to wider adoption, more businesses accepting it.
Right.
Maybe even a shift in how we think about money in our everyday lives.
It's definitely a possibility, but it's important to remember that we're still in the very early stages of this evolution.
Right.
The future of finance is literally being written as we speak.
Yeah.
And the Arizona Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act is just one chapter in that story.
Okay, so to wrap things up here,
it
seems like we've maybe uncovered more questions than answers.
It seems that way.
But that's often the case, right? When we're, delving into uncharted territory.
Absolutely.
The key takeaway here, I think, is that Arizona's decision to even consider Bitcoin as a reserve asset is a really bold move. With some potentially huge consequences.
For sure.
It's a gamble, but one that could reshape the financial landscape as we know it.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide what they make of all of this.
Right.
Do you see this as a sign of progress, a reckless gamble, or something in between?
Right.
The answer really depends on your own understanding of Bitcoin, your risk tolerance, and your vision for the future of finance.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and always evolving world of Bitcoin. We'll continue to monitor this story and keep you updated on all the latest developments.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those tough questions.
Couldn't agree more.